Sirianni, Super Bowl hangover, hit about 3 o'clock in the afternoon last year. Philly started off 10-1, and then supernatural funk. Lost 5 of their next 6. And then Belichick was on the phone with the Philly brass, and Sirianni's like, uh-oh.
Well, you're a legitimately funny guy.
And lean into that. Like, forget trying to invent things and thinking you would have been some, legendary inventor back in the day.
You're just a funny guy.
You're just funny.
You're a funny guy.
Here's Sirianni. I had Mr. Lurie's trust, and they said, hey, let's go back and let's do it again. That's all I thought about. I haven't really thought about anything else. I think it's really tricky to think about things that you can't control. Philosophically, correct. But, Brew, what is your reaction?
No, you're right. Like, that was about as good an answer as you could give.
Correct.
I'll give him that. But, yes, absolutely he's on the hot seat. And I do think Nick Sirianni's done a good job. 4-win team when he got there. And I know they had been good, obviously, before that. They fell off that year. But he's got them in the playoffs every year, and obviously to a Super Bowl a couple years ago. Last year, they did have the supernatural funk. Now, they have bet on him. Their ownership has said, okay, we're betting you weren't the reason, all right? That you weren't the reason we fell apart like that. They've gotten rid of coordinators. They've got filled up the roster. They got all types of very good players. They added some defensive players this year with the draft and stuff. So I am not saying, they should be S-Bob in their minds, and I can call them S-Bob.
They're S-Bob?
Well, in their minds, they are.
I mean, they were in the Super Bowl a year.
Right. But I will say this. I don't think Sirianni has to win the Super Bowl to save his job.
No.
Right. Okay, so we agree on that. But, yes, he is on the hot seat. If they don't have a very good season, with Bill Belichick lurking, the owner, the GM being fans, of course, of Belichick, then yeah, he's absolutely, and we know Belichick wants to coach, and it's not going to be forever. He wants to go to a place where he can win right away. So yes, he's on the hot seat.
Yeah, and just so I don't get yelled at, I don't need to call him Nicholas Sirianni. Nick's okay for this coach? Okay, that's fine.
Because that's what he knows.
Well, I didn't know. I did Nick, Nicky, Nicholas.
Yeah, I go by
now,
all
if you
three.
said
Nicky,
and
that would
throwback
be
reference.
disrespectful.
Yeah, you
Over
need to
an
watch
hour
the
ago.
A-block to get that one. That's fine.
Podcast.
You're bringing up inventing stuff hour to hour, buddy. And so here's the thing. The coach and the quarterback have to be good this year, or else they both are going to be uneasy. Now, the quarterback's going to be the quarterback all year, even if he's not great. The coach, we saw it happen to Doug Peterson. Doug Peterson won a Super Bowl. Didn't just get to a Super Bowl, won a Super Bowl, made the playoffs again the following year, and then in short order was out. So if the Eagles were to get off to and I don't expect this because the roster is wildly talented, but a 4-7 start, Sirianni could be fired during the year.
Can I bring it back a little bit?
Sure.
Earlier, since they lost 5 of their last 6, if they start out 0-2,
if it continues,
it's like, well, hold on, it's 7 of the last 8.
Right.
Because it would be salvaged. The season might still be salvaged.
And especially because
you got to beat those
they
teams.
have the AFC South reverse gauntlet after the Packer game. And now listen, people
that
like
we
it
lied.
2-2 at the very worst.
Right. And so correct if they were to start 0-4, that could happen if bye week there.
It would, probably.
But I don't think that's likely. No. What I'm saying is if after the Ravens game, that's 12 games, they're 4-8, I don't think Sirianni survives that. Now I don't think that's going to happen. But I think for the entirety of the season, if this team with this roster does not win a playoff game, I don't think he's back next year. I don't think they have to make the Super Bowl. I think that if it's just like, listen, we steadied the ship, we made the playoffs again. They make the playoffs every year under Sirianni. We won a playoff game. We got into the Final Four of our conference. They're not going to upset the apple cart there. The other piece, though, and the reason I brought up Jalen is, and I understand he just signed the contract, but we've seen the Eagles give a quarterback a big contract and move on from it. If Jalen struggles this year, differently than last year, because last year, remember, they were 10-1. His numbers were okay. The whole team fell apart at the end. If Jalen is mediocre this season, I think that he goes into next season feeling like, man, with Carson Wentz, they just kind of drafted me as a second-round pick. Oh, it was so much value. Like Howie Roseman has shown a real tendency of, I know it when it's not there and I'm moving on. By the way, while I don't think Jalen Hurts is a great quarterback, I don't think he's a guy you move on from. I'm not arguing that's going to happen. But if he had, let's just say he had a bad year, then people will look at it and say,
he can't have a bad year.
It was an aberration.
There is no excuse for him to have a bad year. Last year, people still think he was hurt. Maybe he was.
He was.
Right. Okay. And then you had, they didn't go well with the coordinators and all of that. But the weapons they have, and I know they had the receivers last year, but now you added Saquon. Like, there's no excuse.
He has. Right. I agree with you. But that's kind of the point I'm making, which is I think that he is as. I think they, even with the loss of Kelsey, have a top 5 offensive line in football.
Yes.
I think they clearly have top 5 weapons in football. I don't love Sirianni, but he's an offensive-minded head coach, so you should have an edge there. And Jalen, one would hope, comes into the year healthy, and maybe they do the crazy thing of not having their go-to play be a play where he just drives his body, or everyone on the team drives their body into him in both directions, and he can stay healthier. But I think they are a team with the biggest variance for coach, quarterback, and team record of any team in the league. Because I don't buy what Brew's selling, which is existential, supernatural funk. Over. I don't know that. I need to see them play. I think it should be over because it was so weird, but they also were a team that started 10-1 and had been to the Super Bowl. So if you tell me the Eagles go 13-4 and win the division and are the 2 seed in the NFC, I'm like, okay, I believe it. And if you tell me they are 6-11 and fire their coach and people are talking about Jalen Hurts' future, I believe it. Because last year they were both of those teams. Both those things I described, they were both of them last year within a season.
Yeah, if they go 6-1, he should 6-11. He should be fired. I mean, they got too much talent to not be a very good team.
Defense, Vic Fangio. I believe in Vic Fangio, mostly because
you've been watching a lot of tape from the 2010s.
Well, Mangini believes in him, so I believe in him.